Hey creative souls, writers, word witches. In this video, I will be talking about how where you live impacts your writing practice. But first, I'm so happy that you've tuned in. Thank you for being here. And by the way, thank you so much for your likes, shares, and subscribes because all of it is helping me grow my channel. And this means the world to me. My goal is to create a quiet rumble in the world by growing a community of like-minded creatives who embrace the power of story to heal. I'm Johnny, I'm a published fiction writer and a retired adjunct writing professor. If you want to know more about me, you can visit my website, johnnymazzacco.com, or check out my video called On Being a Word Witch. And now on to the subject at hand. Where we live shapes what we write, and often how we write. The space we inhabit, its rhythms, energies, and surroundings can either nourish or disrupt our creative flow. As writers, we don't just work from our minds and our hearts. We work from the ground beneath our feet, from the sky above our heads, and everything in between. So let's explore how the place you call home weaves itself into your writing practice. First, geography shapes your mood. Are you near a wild forest, a roaring ocean, a sprawling desert, or tucked into a city that never sleeps? Your natural environment leaves fingerprints of sorts on your inner life. A misty morning in the Pacific Northwest, where I live, might call forth introspection or melancholy prose. And bright daylight in the Southwest, for example, could ignite this crisp, clear voice. And there's no getting away from the fact that the ever-changing sky and the scent of the air and the texture of the landscape, these all become part of your writing palette because we're sensitive like that. We writers can't be in environments without being impacted by them, and then without them somehow showing up in what we write. So if you don't already, start to pay attention how your surroundings influence the emotional tone of your work. Now, how about the rhythm of your life? Is it fast or slow? And I think there's no doubt that the pace outside your door often becomes the pace of your days. In more rural settings, time may stretch out, and I so miss that. There's this quiet between tasks, there are longer pauses, and more room to meander, not just outside, but within as well. In cities, there's urgency, there's movement, there's sound. And I know this well because I live in a city. And this isn't to say that one is better than the other. Some writers thrive on stillness and others on the energy of all this bustle and chaos. What matters is whether your environment aligns with the kind of writer that you are or want to be. Does the tempo of your city or town support your natural creative rhythm, or does it push against it? Think about your writing space as a mirror. Whether you have a private room of your own, as Virginia Woolf said we all need, or a corner on the kitchen table, your physical space affects your focus and your sense of self as a writer. Clutter might drain you, beauty might feed you. Even something as simple as lighting a candle or putting on soft music can shift your own inner atmosphere and make space for the words to emerge. So ask yourself, what's one small change I can make to my space that would help me show up more fully to the page? And don't forget about community and creative energy. Does your city or town have a vibrant writing community? Or are you building your practice in solitude? Living near bookstores and workshops and other writers can feed your sense of belonging and inspiration. But I know that not everyone has access to that. If you're in a more isolated place, you might need to create your own writing coven, so your own group of writers, whether you do this through online communities, virtual writing groups, or long-distance writing dates. Writers need each other, and if your current location doesn't offer that easily, you're not alone. Because I will tell you, even as one who lives in a city, I have not had that. And that's for a number of reasons. And sometimes we need to be more intentional about creating that for ourselves. And also very selective. That's one reason I haven't had it. I'm very selective about who I share my work with and just what their vibe is as a writer, because not all writers are created equal. And I'm not talking skill level. I'm talking attitude. And some writers can be so competitive. And I just think that really interferes with the reciprocity of really healthy give and take, of sharing work and giving feedback. So be selective when you do this, if you have to create your own writing coven or writing group. And I'll just say, if you followed me for a while, you know that I'm not a big fan of being around people much. My nervous system just sort of goes haywire, if I am. But still, I need that connection to other writers. But I will say this, just today, I had coffee with this lovely new person I just met who is a writer, and she just happens to be my neighbor. And we had never really met before. We'd seen each other, but never, we kind of both keep to ourselves. And I heard that she's a writer, and I saw her on the streetcar, and so I said, hey, I'm a writer too. Do you want to meet? Which is very unlike me. I don't do that. And so we met today, and we both agreed it was the most rejuvenating conversation we've had in quite a long time, because we got to talk about our passion, about our writing. And we're going to start now sharing work with each other and giving each other feedback. So I encourage you to find this for yourself. If you live in a more remote place, maybe join a writer's group online, be very selective, and then once you get to know people, sort of handpick your people and see if they would be willing to one-on-one share work with you. I think it's also important to think about the land on which we live, on which we write, and to think about the energy that it exudes. Because some lands are very rich with creative energy and others sort of resist it. I really believe that the energetic imprint of a place, its history, its ancestors, spirits, and even its trauma can either open or block creative flow. And I will say this, I lived for a brief while in Truckee, California, and I lived right on Donner Lake. And yes, that Donner, where the Donner Party had the event. And you know, as I lived there, I knew which end of the lake this happened on. And even though you can feel the vibe there, there's this undercurrent of this darkness because of everything that's happened there. And also the building of the railroad and just all of it. I mean, it's everywhere in the States, for sure. But it was very palpable there. But I will also say, my ability to create magic there was through the roof. I was tapped into something else and not something evil. So really start to think about how the area where you live lets your magic flow and how conducive that is to your writing. And if the land that you live on doesn't feel like it's supporting your writing practice, consider ways to enter into a relationship with it. Walk it, listen to it, even leave offerings for it. Let it know about your writing intentions and ask permission. I think especially in the States, too many of us don't stop and think about what the land that we live on has lived through, what it's endured at the hands of humans. And so to create a connection with it, a sacred connection, I think can deeply, deeply impact a writing practice. And I think writing is an act of co-creation with your inner self and with the world around you. And of course, there's routine, which is shaped by place, because where you live impacts how you structure your days. So a long commute might drain your energy, and living near a park would give you access to restorative walks. And I will say I'm very fortunate in that regard. Even though I'm in a city, so many fabulous parks, and I partake of them often. Harsh winters might make you hibernate, and this could help you write more or less. It just depends on who you are, how you're wired, and what you need. So start to notice how the structure of your days is shaped by your location and how you might gently reshape it to create more time, space, and stillness for your writing. And you know I'm a big fan of short writing getaways. So think about the impact of travel and even relocation, because sometimes it's only when we leave a place that we can fully comprehend its grip on us. And travel, even temporarily, can reset your writing voice. New air, new sounds, new textures, they can all wake up your sleepy writer's mind, because the same old allows us to get into ruts that aren't always helpful. And so shaking things up a little bit by just getting out of town, going somewhere new, can just really wake us up. And likewise, moving to a new home, whether you do that with excitement or reluctance, can bring a whole new energy to your writing life. And it can be disruptive for sure, but it can also leave you space to build new routines that serve you better. And when we spend time in a new space, we almost can't help but write about it eventually. It's like the terrain and the vibe and everything about the space sort of seeps into us, and eventually it comes out onto the page. So where you live might end up in your stories at some point. And setting or location or space can even become a character in and of itself in a story. It can become this living, breathing presence on the page. Even if you're not setting your stories locally, the texture, like I said, of your environment often seeps into the writing through metaphors, through pacing, through dialogue. So just let yourself be influenced and start to notice. So let's talk about longing for elsewhere. Sometimes where you live is not your creative home, and that's okay. You can still write, you can still thrive as a writer. Because writing becomes this bridge between where you are and where your spirit wants to be. And as a writer, as a fiction writer, you get to conjure other worlds. You get to craft alternative lives and sort of live vicariously through your characters. Or through your writing practice, you get to create this sacred writing space that feels like your truest home, where your heart and your soul and your mind and just your writer's psyche feels at home. Even if it's only a small desk in the corner of an apartment that doesn't quite fit. Writing allows you to live many lives. So use that for now if you're not in your perfect space, and appreciate that. And I know you've heard me talk about how I want to move out of the city and I want to live amongst the trees. I know that where I am is not my place. And I know that when I'm surrounded by trees in a more quiet environment, my writing practice will benefit. But just because I'm not there yet doesn't mean I'm going to let my current space negatively impact my ability to write. I think it's important to conjure a writing practice that serves you wherever you are. Even if you're like me and you can't change your address just yet, you can change your relationship to the place. And I feel some days I have to do that almost every day. I think it's important to create rituals and maybe even build an altar. Carry around a little notebook outside and just note the smallest thing that brings you joy and write it down. And someday, in some way, it will show up in a story. Because if it's speaking to you, if it's touching you, it's finding that place in you that is real and authentic, and that wants to write. Maybe write in bed. I find that sometimes just before I go to sleep or just when I wake up is when I feel the most creative. My mind is the most open, and it hasn't been tamped down by all the city noises that I encounter every day. Maybe light incense, because lighting incense can shift the energy in a space. If you're outside and the weather's nice, find a favorite tree and sit underneath it. Trees are amazing. I'm sure you've heard how trees communicate with each other underground from like miles away. They are magical, living, breathing entities that I think can do much for us as writers. So sit beneath one and try writing. Lean your back against the trunk and see what happens. Your writing practice can become an act of grounding, of claiming your space, and of weaving your soul into the land that you live on, even if it's just for now. Where you live matters, yes, but it doesn't have to define you. And you can write with your place. You can write through your place, or you can write in spite of your place. And I feel like that's what I do every day. But the key is to notice, to listen, and to shape your writing life intentionally, rooted in the real magic of where you are, because there's magic everywhere. If you want help tuning your writing practice, drop me a comment, go to my website, hit me up for a 1-hour consultation, or join my Alchemy of Writing membership group. And I'm sure I can help you craft the writing practice that serves you and really supports your writer's heart, mind, and soul. That's it for now, lovely writer. As always, I send you mad writing mojo. Happy writing.